So I just watched The Cure. Well, actually, it's like my third time watching the movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. A top 10 for me. One of the greatest pieces of cinema I've ever seen. Now you're gonna see a few other Kurosawa films on the list, but for me, Kiyoshi Kurosawa has the best movie. His overall filmography, I can't say is better than Kurosawa, but I've only seen Pulse, so maybe the other movies are better than this and better than any other Kurosawa film. But yeah, this one is easily his crowning achievement. It is a masterclass in tension, sound design, atmosphere, cinematography. It is great how to make a great psychological thriller. But what is it about? Well, I don't want to spoil anything because this one movie should go in blind. But the thing I'm gonna say is there's a detective who in Tokyo who's seeing a lot of strange cases that have similarities to each other. A bunch of people commit murders in a similar way. They were normal people. They were just regular average Joes, and all of a sudden they just commit brutal murder out of nowhere. And they just seem perfectly calm and like act like how they usually act, but they just committed this horrific crime. And that's a great premise that gets you hooked. And you're just like instantly sucked in. And after that, it just keeps going crazier and crazier. At first, it starts like a detective movie. There's some cases. You see the guy trying to figure out what happens, but halfway through, they make a huge discovery that most movies will wait until the end. But after that, it becomes less of a detective film, a police procedural, and more of a psychological thriller. It just goes crazy at the end. Again, this is one of those movies that are hard to talk about without saying much, because I don't want to say anything about it. But let's just say it is one of the greatest uses of sound in the movie. There's this little drone throughout half the movie that informs one character their instability. They're seemingly normal. The actor's doing a good job. Like he's seeming very grounded, but it probably would not be enough. But his performance alone probably not be enough to understand what the character's thought process is. However, though, with that little drone, you immediately understand like the anger and just like the tension rising. It adds so much. Like stuff like that is why sound design is much more important than you think. Some scenes, like what makes some scenes so good is the atmosphere. There's another scene where a person just kills another person. You gotta try to be vague, but like it just sounds like everything's normal. You know, there's no like droning like that. You know, you hear some animals, you hear the cars, then all of a sudden a gunshot rings out, and then just the normal sounds return again. That just adds to such a certain way, that and the way it's shot, and just adds to a certain level of uncomfortable feeling that I can't describe. It's one of those movies that really you watch and you feel it. It's one of those movies that are really tough to describe because, again, it's something that you just have to watch for yourself. I cannot say that enough. But again, the main antagonist is played by a guy whose name let's see, what's his name? Masaoto Hagiwara. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say his name. I'm probably gonna say it wrong. People get pissed off when I say names. People get pissed off when people say people's names wrong, so I'm not gonna try it. But yeah, he does a great job. He seems to know everything about he seems to know nothing about himself, but everything about you, and he plays that so convincingly. Like just one conversation with him, and you will be like a different person by the end of it. And he plays it perfectly. He's so good. There's stuff I would love to go more in depth of, but I do not want to spoil this movie. So I'm gonna say my overall thoughts. Well, I already know it's a masterpiece review movie, so you know it's gonna be a 10. But yeah, this is again one of the greatest movies I have ever seen in my life. Textbook example of atmosphere, like sound design, and how you can sound design, editing, and what's the last one? Sound design, editing, and cinematography to create atmosphere. It is, again, I can never recommend it enough. Absolute masterpiece. It should be a classic. It should be up there with other Japanese classics such as Seven Samurai and Hiraki. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Yeah, please go check it out.